Witnessing the birth of a cow is a remarkable experience, but it usually happens one at a time. Nevertheless, when a cow on a farm in Western Australia went into labor, two farmers interrupted their tasks to attend to her. What they witnessed was an incredibly rare occurrence. David Cunningham, who had spent the majority of his life as a farmer, was one of the individuals present. The farm he was taking care of now had been passed down through 3 generations of his family. They had over 100 cows on the property, and he knew each one by its face. Most farmers tagged their cows, but he could remember them. David had even named them. However, for years now, there had been something peculiar happening with one of these cows, which he had named Nessie. She had already given birth to 3 sets of twins. In his entire life, David had only seen a handful of calf twins. The likelihood was supposed to be 1 in 100, but he had bred many more than that in his time. So when Nessie popped out her first set of twins a few years ago, he was excited. When she did it again, he was less surprised. If Nessie had the genetics for twins, then she was bound to give birth to more twins, and she proved it a 3rd time when she gave birth to her 3rd set of twins. But what was waiting for him the 4th time would leave him speechless. In the days leading up to Nessie's delivery day, David was sure she was going to do it again. As he was talking to his wife, Julie, the night before, he said, "I bet you anything that more than one head will come out of Nessie soon." Julie hadn't been farming as long as David, but she was confident in herself. She had learned the ropes from David, but now she fancied herself a strong farmer, so she still took the bet, and they decided that whoever lost would have to finish the last 6 miles of fence they were putting up around the property. That was a steep price. Each pole needed to be dug in, planted, and wrapped with wire fencing. The job would take at least a month of work, possibly even a few. David pretended to think about it for a second. He had to make it believable. "Okay then," he said with feigned reluctance, but as he shook her hand, a big smile grew over his face. She narrowed her eyes with suspicion and felt like she may have just been played. When they woke up the next morning, there was no sign of anything unusual. Nessie was in her enclosure where she was staying, getting ready for her birth. As David walked up to her, she was sipping on the giant bowl of water he had set out. He patted her head and she rubbed against his hand. "Morning, Nessie. Ready to make some twins today," he said to her. Nessie greeted him with a nod before wandering off to the back fence. She must be tired, he thought. After all, it's not easy being pregnant. Carrying a calf is a big strain on a cow's body, especially if it was the twins that David suspected. He went ahead and filled up Nessie's food bowl with a mix of corn, oats, and grass before getting to work on his morning errands. He fed the chickens, collected the eggs, and picked some vegetables before heading back toward the house. He was gone less than an hour, but in that short time, everything had changed. He popped his head into Nessie's enclosure. To his surprise, she was hiding in a corner struggling to get settled. She even looked nervous. David recognized these signs she was going into labor. David rushed to a nearby shed to get all the equipment that he might need. That meant a bucket, rope, disinfectant, and opening up the head gate in case he needed it. Normally, cows gave birth just fine, but in some cases, they needed a little help pulling the calf out. David was so used to delivering cows that sometimes he felt like a doctor. By the time David got back to the enclosure, Nessie was already lying on her side. This is the position a cow normally takes to get ready for pushing little calves out, but everything was moving much more quickly than David was used to. By this point, Julie had seen what was going on from inside the house and had joined David to help. But she was also coming to collect her winnings. "You're about to lose a big bet, honey," she said to David with a smirk. If they knew what was coming out of Nessie, though, they wouldn't have been so relaxed. David appeared over at Nessie to have another look. There were 2 solid little circles moving ever so slowly towards him, trying to come out of Nessie. Those were the feet of the calf, and they were making good progress. Normally, it took a few hours to get to this point, but this was the quickest David had ever seen. Then there came a head, and within 20 minutes a tiny calf had emerged from Nessie and was crawling around on the grass. Just like that, another calf was added to the herd. "There's one," David yelled. Before taking the position above Nessie and waiting for the next one, Julie laughed at how confident David was, but that laugh soon turned to surprise. Sure enough, another one did come. This time it took a little longer, but David didn't mind. "I win. It's twins again, Julie. I told you," he shouted with joy. David gave Nessie a big pat on the head and congratulated her. Julie shook her head in disbelief. How was he always right about these things? Then again, he had been raised on a farm, so it made sense. What happened next would prove that David didn't always know these things, and despite his best experience, even he wasn't prepared. Just as they were starting to pack up their equipment and reunite Nessie with her cows, they noticed something. Nessie hadn't moved. She was still lying on her side. She might have been injured. So David went to check her vital signs. Everything looked okay, but Nessie still looked to be in pain. No, it couldn't be, Julie whispered. Was there a third calf coming out? Twins were rare enough, but triplets were almost unheard of for cows. In fact, there was only a 1 in 100,000 chance. But sure enough, Nessie pushed out a third happy little calf. Finally, when Julie and David were washing up, they'd almost had a heart attack. A fourth one was coming. After that, she was finally finished. Nessie got up after almost 4 hours of labor and finally got to properly meet her offspring. She cleaned them, nestled them, and made sure they felt safe. Meanwhile, Julie and David watched on with amazement before jumping into action. They knew what they had to do, and it had to be done fast. Quickly, they got to work separating 3 of the cows from their mother. It may sound cruel to non-farmers, but they knew that they would all have the best chance of surviving if Nessie was only focusing on 1 calf for now. The 3 little ones cried out as they watched their mother disappear. David put them into a different barn with some grass, water, and milk. He would take care of them now. Meanwhile, Nessie was happy to be with the 4th calf. It was a girl, and she was already starting to play with her mother. After so long being squished next to her 3 siblings, now she was all by herself. Cow births can be dangerous for the mother and the calves, especially when there's more than 1 calf. David was acutely aware of the increasingly slim chances of the 3 calves surviving, and thus kept a watchful eye on them while tending to their needs. His foresight paid off, as 6 weeks later, the cows were successfully reunited with their mother Nessie. The joyful cow eagerly welcomed her offspring back into the herd, although the little ones initially appeared bewildered. Eventually, they were accepted as though they had always been there. David and Julie knew just how miraculous the outcome was, and despite both losing the bet, they felt as though they had won something. As a result, the 2 worked together to lay the fence that month as promised. I hope you liked this video, then please give us a thumbs up and consider to share it with your loved ones. Also, press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.